This is a Sound Legacy production.
Well, hello and welcome to the Sound Legacy Podcast. My name is Andrew Couch and I'm your host. In this show, I'm trying to meet my elders, hear great stories, and celebrate and recognize people who do good in our community. And today, my guest is a cross-section of a few of those things. She is a longtime Bay Area resident. She's a world traveler, very, very interesting lady, and the author of this book, Secrets, Shame, and Silence, which I read in a single night. I could not put it down.
Really?
I kept on giving notes to my wife. She's like, I am trying to go to sleep. Please stop reading this to me. But she's very interested and wants to read it, so I'm glad that you said you brought me a copy. So thank you, Helen Hayes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm really glad that you're here. I know you were wondering, why am I here? Who's this man? What does he want from me? What are the questions? I certainly do have some questions for you, but what a feat, what a thing you did to write that book. It was very powerful, and a lot has happened to you in your life. And I think you and I share similar roots in that we're both kind of Southerners in a way. You're from, well, wait, you're not from the South.
No way. I'm a Northerner.
That's right. It
Washington,
just sounded,
Oregon, and California.
It sounded Southern to me because it was so poor. I just associate poverty with the South. But you started in the Northwest in a very rough situation.
It's called blinding, grinding poverty.
Blinding, grinding poverty. Yeah. Can you describe some of that to me?
Well, sometimes I would have for dinner a piece of bread. My mother always made homemade bread. I'd have a piece of bread with a little sugar on it. That was dinner.
Yeah.
And I really don't remember any of the other meals. You don't remember bad things, I think, by nature.
Yeah. Protective mechanism.
Yeah. And the reason I'm so resilient is because of the violence that was in my family. That's what I've been told.
Yeah. It's interesting because in the book you described it, a lot of it, I guess people were trying to draw it out of you when you were younger. Some of that, what happened to you? What was the violence?
Yeah.
Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
No, because sometimes I have PTSD thinking of one incident when my father was abusing my mother physically, and she kept saying, "Go get your brother Don." And I was like 4 years old, and I remember walking out in the street in the dark and calling his name, and then I couldn't find him. And I don't know what my feelings were, but I know that I was scared. And I know that I don't like to go to bed at night in the dark. I don't like that anymore, but I do it. You just do what you have to do. I don't hold those old grudges or anything. But my brother he's 93. He passed away about 5 years ago. So I never found him. He was off in World War II. He joined the Air Force. No wonder I couldn't find him. No wonder he didn't hear me. Right. I think my mother just asked me to do that so I wouldn't see
you
anything.
Out of the house, yeah.
No see.
I have read books that make me laugh out loud, or books that make me, and your book got me laughing at times. It did, but there was a great deal of it that was incredibly painful to read.
Well, my doctor told me last month that he read it and he wasn't even up to page 15 and he cried.
Yeah.
And I said, I got my book and I went to page 15. I said, well, there's nothing here that's sad. But he said,
no, the life story is because what I've been struck by, and Mike, our mutual friend here, has told me about you. He told me about you and what your spirit is like and what kind of person, what it's like to be around you. And just looking at you now, you're ebullient, you've got this smile and sort of joy about you that if having just read that book, you wouldn't necessarily know that that's the person that you would meet. Because that book, there was so much trauma. So I'm sort of burying the lead here. Do you want to just, I mean, I've read the book, but if you would tell me what happened to your family and what happened to you.
Well, I went into foster care and saw all these wonderful things that I'd never seen before, like fruits and vegetables and a piano. And I think I said carpet that went almost to the wall. They didn't have wall-to-wall carpet back then, I guess. But it was heaven. And I stayed there 5 years. And then I left. But I had those were 5 wonderful years from the time I was 8 until I was 13. and I graduated from grammar school, and then I started high school. And my sister was there, and I thought she's going to help me start my first year in high school and show me around and everything. She totally ignored me like she did when I was a brand new baby. She didn't want to be my friend. She never wanted to play with me. She wouldn't eat with me. And I remember reaching a point where I said, stop dressing me like her because we're not twins. And I really should have said, we're not even sisters. Well, she grew up and did what my mother did. She married an alcoholic and had 5 children and was very, very poor. And I never spoke to her again. And the family was all screwed up. And I had 3 brothers and sisters. The youngest one, who was, I was 8, he was 12, stole cars and took them over the state line and he ended up in San Quentin, and he learned Hebrew while he was there, and he converted to Judaism and moved to Israel and married a wonderful woman, just like my mother.
Really?
Real good,
Sweet and lovely.
codependent. Took the crap that he gave out. I know. History repeats itself because...
Well, the thing that I guess I'm trying to draw out of you, and I hate to bring up painful things, but you seem very capable of handling all painful things. The reason you went into foster care.
Say what?
The reason you went into foster care is...
Well, because there was no place to go.
Right.
The brothers and sisters who were older were already drinking. My sister was drinking. She had 2 small children of her own. And the 2 boys, one went in the Marines, one in the Air Force. That's why this 250th anniversary means a lot to me. I love it. But then another brother was killed in a shooting accident playing with a gun. And I said, I wonder where that gun came from. Then the other brother went to San Quentin. I mean, we just never were connected. Never.
And how do you feel about talking about what happened to your parents?
Well, they died. He put 6 bullets in her and 1 in himself. And I heard him once say, which is still used today in 2026, if I can't have you, nobody can. Men are still saying the same stupid line, but he put 6 bullets in her. And I don't know who took my arm, but I never saw anything. None of us. We were all in the backyard, and this was in the kitchen table. So we didn't have that trauma of seeing this, but it was trauma in another way. And I tell you the truth, I've lost some months there. I don't know where I went after the shooting. I went to my neighbors for a couple of hours, and then I think I went right to foster care. I think that's exactly where I went. I didn't sleep on the streets or anything.
That is the first 15 pages of your book.
Is that it?
Is in there. And you express a longing for your mother.
I did.
That's what got me. That's what got me crying. I'm sure that might have gotten your doctor as well. The style that you write in is it's you. It is very much your voice. You have a very specific talking voice, but you write like you talk, which is a rare gift to just have that voice.
Yeah.
And the longing and immediacy, it almost felt like you had to get this out of you. You had to get this story out of your head and on paper. It felt like I got to get this down. What was it like to sit and write that?
It was very hard, very hard. And I tried to read it with Mike to do the book.
An audiobook.
Yeah. And I really had a hard time with those first 5 pages. The rest of it I just can breathe through because I saw a great thing. But it was very sad. It brought up a lot of feelings. And it's just hard. It was hard and slow. The rest of the book, I could write and talk and write and talk and type and type and write and talk. But that part was really slow because I had to remember things I didn't want to remember and had to remember things that were important to be put in the book.
Right.
You know.
And you, in the writing, it's kind of a meta commentary, but in the writing of the book, you're discussing how you didn't want to do that. People were asking you.
Yes.
They wanted you to tell that story.
You need to tell your story because it's too interesting.
And that's the premise of the book, shame, secrets, silence. You buried a lot of stuff for a long time.
Long time.
And that, you started doing that early. You brought up a lot of times in this book, that little box Your little secret box of your things that came from your house. Can you talk about that box?
I carried that box until about 3 years ago.
Really?
I decided to open it. And people were buying my book and were excited like you and want to talk about it. And I was asked, where's that box? And I said, it's been under my bed. I take it, and whenever I move, it goes under the bed and I forget about it. But too many questions. So I brought the book out. Finally, I said, you're grown up now and you've done all your work on this trauma. So open up the box. I did. And I was very surprised and shocked and sad. And the little strawberry dress wasn't there. And why wasn't it? I outgrew it, of course, for my piano recital. I was going to wear it. And then there were books that I was going to give to friends' children. That Little Engine That Could was my favorite book. And there were pictures that I had drawn. And that was pretty much about it. And there were a lot of lyrics to words that I had learned on the radio to songs that I had written down and put in the box. But I said, this isn't so bad after all, this box. But I had changed.
Well, just you had changed, yeah. And you had there's something about writing down a story. It's like you get to put it down in a way. Like you literally put it down on paper or in a computer, but you let go of a majority of the burden of that story. Did you feel any of that at all? That you were unburdened, or do you still?
My God, yes. The writing went faster. The words came easier. I knew what I had to say, and I wanted to say, but the first 10, 15 pages, I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to do it. I had to. And it's just like, it's no longer a secret, and that's what makes you weigh less. You're not carrying that burden any longer. Yeah. The more you talk about it, the more it dissipates.
Yeah. And the awful and traumatic things were not done with you.
No. It happened in my life, but not to me.
Yes.
That's what I tell all the women, and that doesn't apply to all women because some women have been beaten and raped, and I never had any of that. I don't remember my father. He was gone so much being drunk and in bars and spending our money. But my mother gave me a lot of love and attention and homemade bread and with sugar on it. And it was just, it was good until all of a sudden, where's my mom? Oh, she's not coming back, was what I'd hear. But that doesn't mean much to a little kid because there's always tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. I'll do better tomorrow and she'll be here.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have carried through. You could tell in the book as you're maturing and you're growing up, because the book is relatively linear. You're following yourself through time.
Exactly.
But you've got a sense of hopefulness about you that's just
always
cannot be defeated. And there's a streak of independence that suddenly wells up in you that I thought was really interesting. That you, once you kind of found that your sister wasn't going to be your companion, you just, I'm going to do my own thing.
Well, that was very, very little, but she never listened to me. I'm going to do my own thing. She always wanted me to drink with her, and I don't really care that much about drinking, although I do like a good party. But she's the one that brought my brother to my apartment in San Francisco and was my blind date. Now, to have a blind date with your brother that's pretty dysfunctional. And I put my hand out and I said, hello, my name is Helen. And he said, I'm Larry, your brother. I could have fainted. I mean.
Yeah, because you had not seen your brother
since I was
a little child. And then, as an adult,
and I was 21 and 22 then.
Right. And the premise was, I got a date for you.
Don't bring me a date. I get my own dates. It was.
Right. And that's another thing. You put in some great photos at the in the back of the book. Really great. And I mean, you're a beautiful, beautiful woman.
Oh, thank you.
But did you realize you were pretty when you were young? It didn't seem like you caught on to that. Because then all of a sudden.
No, it still doesn't. I don't.
Right.
I don't get that. I don't know. Little eyeliner, a little lipstick, and away I go.
But you got this, like, all of a sudden you went for just a job And next thing you know, you're a model.
Yeah.
Take me through that story.
Well, I was going to lie because I didn't know how to type, and I was going to say I typed, I forget what, 70 words a minute or something when I typed.
30.
I think it was 34 with 17 errors. I didn't know how to type. I didn't know how to. I taught myself in my older age when I worked in law firms, and I really had to type fast for a lawyer, but I couldn't type. And so the lady said to me, Helen, are you here for that secretarial job? And I went, well, yeah, I guess so. Yes, please. And she said, I'm sorry, it's already taken. And I said, oh, she said, but let me see your legs. And I said, here it is. These are the bad guys. I'm going on a train. Nobody will know I'm gone. I'll be out of the state of Oregon, across the bridge in Washington, and I'll end up in Morocco or someplace. Nobody will ever find me because I don't even speak to my brothers and sisters. Anyway, so I pulled, like a good girl, I pulled my skirt up a little bit, and she said, take this number and go to that building and give it to who happened to be the designer of Janssen swimsuits. I see they're back on Facebook all over, and I look at them and I think, that's the way I was at 17.
Yeah.
But
What year was that? I mean, that's...
don't ask me.
Well, but, I mean, I'm just trying to... Because that was
1950.
early. 1950. That's very early swimsuit. Like that there were swimsuit models and these things going into newspapers and ads. I mean, that must have been early on, right?
I was 22. How many years ago is that?
I don't know.
La, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 70 years ago. I don't know.
70 years ago, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
some of those things I had to really think to remember because I've
Sure,
forgotten
yeah.
them. Yes.
Yeah.
So I got a job with Pac Bell, and someone at Pac Bell said, join this, enter, my Janssen lady told me, enter this Miss Oregon Press Photographers Contest. And I said, okay. So off I go, and it turns out that, of course, I didn't win. Why would I win? The woman who won was Miss Portland, and she just wanted another title. And I didn't know what I said to her. I don't know how to model. And she said, just follow me and do what I do. And I said, oh, okay. That'll do. But there was a guy in the audience who was a VP in public relations with Pac Bell, and he got my number and called me. And from then on, I was traveling all over the state of Oregon, speaking to 500 people on stage, 200 people. I didn't care. I didn't know it was great, but I knew that other women, kids my age, didn't have as good a job as I had. And maybe they were typing and I was the one that was doing what I really liked to do, was speak in front of people.
You weren't afraid? Were you nervous?
No.
Yeah. How's that possible? How
Well, you guys, I guess you get nervous. You're not healthy if you don't get nervous, but I was excited. The only thing I was ever worried about was that there was another woman who was beside me, my supervisor, and she had kind of a high voice. So here I am, like a bass, and my boss had to run and turn the volume, turn the whatever you call it down to catch up with my voice, which was so low. But
That's great.
It was fun.
And what were you talking about?
All the latest things that came out of the Bell Labs. And as interestingly enough, the last part of my talk, I start out doing cartoons on a big board of good manners using the telephone. And from there, I would talk about what your bill is going to look like. It's going to have little holes in it. And the last thing I said was there's going to be a day when we're all going to be talking into our telephones. Now, that was 1952, 53, 54, somewhere in there. Are we doing it?
Talking into our wristwatch.
We're talking into our wristwatches. Imagine, that was AT&T that came out of the Bell Labs.
Wow.
And every year I did this, and every year was something new and different. It was exciting. I loved it.
So how did you get to San Francisco
well,
again?
I came home from work one day, and my girlfriend was there, and she said, I'm out of here. And I said, where are you going? And she said, I'm going to move to San Francisco. My suitcases are in the car. Do you want to go? And I said, I have one suitcase. I threw it in the car, and the three of us left. That was it.
That was it.
I said goodbye to a few people. That was it.
So you got here in the 50s or early 60s?
Yeah, late 50s. Yeah, that's when I had the good boyfriend.
Yeah.
But he wasn't that good in the end
Yeah.
because my therapist said, "Don't you get what that thread is that goes through all your relationships?" And I said, "They're all smart, not like my father. They're all educated and smart." And she said, "That's not what I'm talking about." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" She said, "The thread that goes through all these guys." I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And she said, "Well, they all drank." And I said, "Oh my God, I never saw that. I didn't even know I was supposed to look for. They were fun."
Yeah.
And alcoholics do like codependence because we're fun.
Well, we're going to get to Al-Anon eventually. I want to talk about that too. But so that gentleman, you moved to San Francisco, and what did you start doing here? Were you working for PG&E?
You're getting into this, aren't you?
I liked the book. I had a great time, and your life is kind of fascinating to me.
Okay.
Because I mean, I again, not to bury the lead, trauma and tragedy is not done with you.
Oh my God, no, I haven't even started.
I know, and like what I'm seeing, I'm getting to experience the woman who's lived through all this.
Is a risk taker.
A risk taker for
Big
sure.
time.
For sure.
Don't have any. Well, I always have said two of the greatest things that my mother never gave me. She never taught me how to worry, and she never taught me guilt. So I can't do those. I don't know how. I've tried, but
Well, that's a great gift. I mean, the fact
It is.
that your book doesn't have guilt in the title is
I know.
because it's plenty else holding heavy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in San Francisco. What are you doing for work?
I'm working for 6 engineers at Pac Bell, and put conduit around the wires. I mean, I put the conduit around the wires in the B of A building, and down in the financial was brand new. And I went in there one day. I said, "You guys, I'm tired of doing this on paper. I want to see what's going on." So they took me, made me wear a hard hat. And I went going through all these wires and cables and holes and ditches and everything. And my high heel shoe went whoop, doop, 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 across the floor. And I said, "I think I'm done. I've seen enough. I want to go back to work." Yeah. And type.
In typing. You got faster and faster.
I got faster and faster.
Yeah. Then the not so great man comes into your life. And there was a moment where I didn't know, I mean, at every turn in this book, I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know, I just had no
Nobody
idea.
did.
No one knows. And all of a sudden, this gentleman doesn't show up, doesn't come home. And you find out that he has attempted suicide.
Oh, yes.
And his mother calls you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. She just called me at work and said that he had shot himself. And I said, "Oh, my God." So I went to San Francisco General to check on him. And I had his car because he was working, I don't know, odd hours, I guess. So I took his car and went out to San Francisco General. And as I'm standing there, the doctor said the air in his body pushed his heart to one side and the bullet went out some other way. And I'm thinking, as I'm looking at him, he's out with all the tubes and everything. I'm standing there on one side of his bed, and on the other side of his bed is his mother and his divorced wife of his 2 children. And I looked at them and I said, "What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. This is their son and father of the kids." And I left. And I told his mother, "I'm taking his car and I'm leaving it at your house. I'll take a bus home. I don't care." I never saw him again. I don't know whatever happened. I was through. I was done. And I realized it. I was done before that, but
It's got to be terrifying. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's so...
no, it wasn't.
It wasn't terrifying.
No, because he lived.
Yeah, but no, I mean, just like for you to, you found this
I'm already
partner,
used to death.
Yeah.
You see, you can't give me a new one and make me be
Right.
excited.
But to have been that close to it.
I've already been around
yeah.
that block.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
It scared me for you in the book. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. That through line, you could already tell, that there was something coming
Well,
in your life.
you haven't even gotten.
We're not even there yet. I know there's more to come. So from there, you take off. right? You decided.
Yeah, I get my own apartment, and I still have my job, and I'm working for 8 engineers. And then the guy next door kept hounding me, wanted to go out with me, and I didn't care. It was just, I just want to live in San Francisco and love it and have a great time. And both of my roommates before had, one got married to a guy I had dated, and I didn't like him, so she dated him and married him and went back to Portland. And the other one, I think she went back east. So I was on my own, and I was just going through the paper finding more roommates. And it was so easy back then. And I had wonderful girls roommates. And then I had an invitation. This is where I had an invitation Thanksgiving. Now, do you think we should talk about this on TV?
Of course. It's not technically television. It's a podcast. It's like fake radio, fake television. You can do whatever you want. Now, if it's painful for you, I don't want to.
It's not painful.
Yeah.
I'm just embarrassed.
You wrote it in a book.
But when I write it, I turn the page and that's it. I don't live in the past.
Well,
Okay.
if you're comfortable with it, I'd love.
It's a joke. I mean, it's not a joke, but I see it as a joke now. I was such a baby. I was so young and naive. I still am naive, But my roommate and her boyfriend said, so-and-so is having Thanksgiving down the peninsula. You go with us because we're invited for dinner. And he said, it's okay to bring you. I said, okay. So we get in the car and go down there. I had a fabulous Thanksgiving, very typical with all the typical foods and a lot of wines, different ones, dessert wine and this wine and that with the carrots and blah, 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 all kinds of wines. And I'm just having a little sip, and dinner is over, and we were sitting around chatting, and I looked around, and my 2 friends had gone. Now, it was their car, and they came back to the city. Well, here I am in Burlingame with this guy that I hardly know. And I said, he was cleaning up and all that. I said, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to bed. I'm so tired, and I think I've had too much to drink. And I climb into bed. There's only one bed. It's a little place, and it's obviously his bed, but I can take care of myself. I'm a big girl. Oh, Jesus. So anyway, he comes, I don't know when, I'm sound asleep. Hours later, he comes and climbs into bed with me. And I'm just, and then he starts touching me. And I said to myself, well, I guess this is what you're supposed to do to say thank you for the nice dinner, is to have sex with this guy. I mean, well, that's what I thought. And my argument in this whole book is, why didn't we talk to each other and tell each other all of these rules about life? Nobody told me a thing. I didn't know when I was going to have a period. I didn't know where to get a bra. I knew none of that. Nobody told me any of that. So we had sex, and it was horrible because I didn't know what a condom was because my first boyfriend had a vasectomy. So this was really good sex, but the condom came off, and oh my God, I didn't even know what a condom was. So now what do I do? What the hell do I don't know. And I just said, like you always say, Helen, deal with it tomorrow. Take care of it tomorrow. Okay. So I got up in the morning. We had a little breakfast, went for a little walk, and I said, I got to get home. But years and years later, when I talked to him about it, I said, well, remember that night I stayed with you? And he said, you didn't stay one night, you stayed 2 nights.
Oh, wow.
So
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah. But on Saturday, I was back in my own apartment, and I got up and I said, God damn it. Excuse me.
It's fine.
I know I'm pregnant. I know I'm pregnant.
Yeah. You just knew it, huh?
I just know I am. And I'm not going to tell him. Oh my God. I went right into my dysfunctional skills, life skills. First with anger, then with fear, then with solution. I got to get to the solution. What am I going to do? I'm not going to abort. I don't want to hurt myself. That probably does hurt. I don't do that. So no spiritual religious reasons. I don't want to hurt myself. And then I said, well, I'm not going to marry him. I'm not even going to tell him. I'm just going to figure it out. So I figured it out in such a F-U-C-K way that I don't know how I come through. The guy the next door in the other office was hounding me to go out with him. I went out with him, had dinner. No, I had him over to my apartment for dinner, and I cooked the same dinner because I still to this day, don't know how to cook. I don't cook. But I did this same dinner, the turkey, the mashed potatoes, everything. I think the gravy came out of a can. I don't know. But anyway, and I gave him a lot of drinks. And then I told him we had sex and that I was pregnant. And he was just a super, super guy, brilliant. Nothing like my dad. He went to Naval Academy and he taught at MIT and he was an executive with Levi Strauss after he left AT&T, PT&T. And brilliant, wonderful, played fabulous piano, everything. So the first thing he said to me was very sweet. He said, well, let's go to Las Vegas and get married. And I thought, oh, thank you, God. We're going. We're going to go get married. And I've handled everything. I got from the problem to the solution, and it all works. And so we left San Francisco after we got married and moved to Mill Valley. And we bought a house. And our daughter was starting to walk then. And when she was about 18, or I don't know how old she was, you got to know how you bring him back into life. Yeah. Well, you're going through this whole book page by page.
Well, I did just recently read it. And
after 25 years or 35 years, he comes back into my life in the strangest way.
Her father, her biological father.
The real father.
Right, but we're skipping over something.
Yeah, what?
Well, the gentleman you married, your husband.
Gary.
What happened to him?
We had our ups and downs. The house was nice. I was being Miss Perfect, which is, I learned later, is a cover-up for shame in my book. But being perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect dinner, perfect table setting, clean house. I would even mow the whole yard and trim it. So he didn't have to do anything. I had to be the more perfect I was, the more he would love me. I don't think either one of us loved each other. We just were two decent, kind people that he didn't even do anything wrong. But as time went on, in our 4th year, something happened, and I'll never know what it was, but he didn't speak to me for 10 days. And he didn't say, that was a nice dinner, pass the salt, nothing. And on the 10th day, naive little me said, I woke up one morning and I said, I wasn't put on this earth to take this crap. He's not going to speak to me. I'm not living the rest of my life like that. I got a kid to raise. So I got up and I walked over to the phone. It was hooked on the wall in those days. And I called a lawyer and I said, I know you're supposed to talk me out of this, but I want a divorce. And now, he said, this was like Monday. He said, I'll type up the papers, get them ready, and I'll be there on Thursday night on his way home, which was by my house and up the hill. And he was there. And Gary answered the door and he said, are you Gary? And he said, yes. And he handed him the papers and Gary didn't know what was even going on. He said, well, what am I supposed to do? And he said, well, she wants you out of here. So that's the law. So you have to go to the city and get an apartment, I guess. So he did. He did what he was told. I did what I was told. Two just nice, decent people. And then he was gone about a month and he came back and I said, you're not coming back to this house until we go to a therapist. And I picked a woman with a PhD because I figured she covered everything. There was no games being played. So she had us each draw. This is a sad part for me. Gave us each a big piece of butcher paper and put it at our feet and said, draw your family tree. And I said, easy peasy. And I started drawing. Should I move? And I had branches and leaves and trees and flowers all over my tree because I have so many sisters and brothers. She said, "That's very nice, Helen. Gary, let me see yours." His was one arms and feet and a little head. That was Mom. Same thing for Dad. And this little kid, there he was. And she looked at it, and then she looked at me, and I knew what she was going to say. I knew. She said, "Helen, I think we better deal with Gary first. We'll call you back in a couple of weeks or whenever." Because that picture said everything, And he kept going, and finally he said, "I think I feel better. I don't need to go anymore." And what do I know? I said, "Oh, okay." So he started getting sad, and he wanted to quit his job, and he said, and this kept going on. Now, I know about this much about mental health, depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenic, nothing. I know about schizophrenic because I never put this in the book, but I had an adopted little sister in the second foster home. She turned schizophrenic at 17, but I was by that time 25 years old living in San Francisco, but I would fly back to Portland to help them or be with her or whatever. But anyway, I don't quite know remember how it all went, but he said, he came out one morning, I said, in his little shorts and his T-shirt, and I said, "Go in and get dressed. Valerie will be up for breakfast, and it's almost ready." And he went down the hallway and sat on the bed in our bedroom, and he didn't come out. So I went down there on the hallway, and he was crying, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I don't want to go to work anymore. They all know that I'm sick." And I said, "They don't know anything about you. I called in and said you had the flu. What are you talking about?" Still, naive me. I don't know. I called again. But anyway, I don't even know how much time from that day till I got up in the morning and he wasn't in the house. And I went all over the house and the yard looking for him. And I went in the garage and I said, "God, what's he been building? It smells in here." And I threw open the garage door and I said, "Oh my God." And I looked in the car and there he was. He had carbon monoxide poisoning and he had killed himself. And he was like 33 and I was 30. Somewhere I was 30, I think, and he was 34, maybe. But
How old was your daughter? She was
4.
4, yeah.
She was 4. That's when I sat around and I watched the grass grow, and I didn't know what I was going to do with I could have raised this kid by myself. Do I have any money? What's going on? And pieces of paper would come in, and the lawyers would call and whatever, and I found out the house was paid for, and he left me. I started out our marriage with $10,000, and I put it towards the house. He put it on the house. He had a lot of money saved too, but when I went through all the bank accounts, which had there was my $10,000. He never spent it, and he put it back in my little account. It's sweet. The ashtray was always filled with quarters to get across the Golden Gate Bridge, and he always filled up the gas tank. I mean, he was everything in the Boy Scout code, everything. So he, where was I?
Discovered him, and then you were sort of lost at what to do.
Oh, what to do.
Yeah.
So I sat around and watched the grass grow. After the coroner has to come and all that awful stuff. They just rush you so fast. By 4 o'clock, you got to pick out a coffin, a casket. You got to do this. And I'm like, okay. But I watched the grass grow, and I said, "I'm not doing this. I am not." So what do you want to do? And I said, "I don't know. I don't want my daughter raised in a rich white ghetto." I knew that, but I didn't know what to do about it. So I called this lady who was a travel agent, and I said, "I'm going to put everything in storage. Get me the hell out of here." And I had no knowledge of grieving. I just didn't want to be there by myself. I wasn't looking for a party. I wanted her to see other countries and foods and languages. And so that's what we did. We went to Lausanne, Switzerland first.
Right.
Yeah. And I bought a car and I drove around and I went up as far as Stockholm. And because my father-in-law was from Stockholm, Sweden, and my last name was Olson, O-L-S-O-N. "How's your coffee, Mrs. Olson?" Remember that? That old commercial. But anyway, I didn't like Switzerland too much, so I left and came back to Marin. And I always come back to Marin because it's home.
Best place on
It's
earth.
the best place on earth.
Yeah.
And he was gone. What was I going to do? I went back to work. And then just part-time here and there. And I've got my daughter in school. And she's like 5 or 6 now. When she was 8, it was my gypsy boots came out of the closet and it was time to go again. So I had 2 friends who had villas in Spain. So I said, I'm going to Spain. But at that point, for the last 2 years, I had been playing tennis 6 hours a day, every single day, with towels in the rain and beach towels and stuff. But I moved to Spain, and I was going to stay a year, and we stayed 3.
At what point, like there was some tension with you and your daughter around, I guess she found out that maybe that Gary wasn't her father.
No, she didn't
know
even
that?
ask until she was in her 20s.
Okay.
And I asked the therapist, and he said, don't tell her until she asks. She doesn't need to know anything. And she didn't go to his funeral. He had a funeral in Marin County, which is just packed with all the Levi people and CEOs and everything. And then I had to ship the body to L.A. because he left a note saying he wanted to be buried next to his grandmother. So I got down to L.A. to the funeral, and my mother-in-law never liked me. I could never be good enough for her son. And the minister got up and said, it's a very sad thing that a young man would die of a heart attack.
Right.
I said, what is he talking about? Then I said to somebody sitting next to me, get me out of here fast. Get me to the airport. And I wouldn't let my daughter go to either funeral, Mill Valley or L.A. No, she was too little. Yeah. I went at 8, and I was like, well, she's only asleep. She'll be back. It doesn't work that way.
So you and your daughter, she got a heck of an education.
She got a good education.
Just being in and out of different places.
And when she was 17, I put her on a plane, and she wanted to. It was 2 months before she was 18. She moved to Paris by herself, and I think that's brave. That is really brave.
Very brave.
But I did it, so I guess she figured she could do it.
She could do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was she like?
She was wonderful. She was smart. She was talented. She and I used to harmonize on songs all the time. And she just was smart in kind of a quiet way. She was a Virgo, so she was never out there like me and Aries. I'm right out there. And she was very sophisticated. And
did she know what had happened to you as a child? Did she know about your father and mother, or did she just know that you were? Did she know you'd been adopted?
I can't remember if I ever told her. I think I told her, but only when she asked, and only in bits.
Right.
Bits and pieces.
So you kept that.
Yeah. Well, she was either too young or it's none of her business.
Right.
Well,
here I am asking you.
What?
But I mean, how often did you ever tell anybody what had happened to you as a child? Did you ever?
Well, I say in the book that I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was in the first foster home, and the kids on the playground used to say, well, how come you call that lady where you live Mrs. Holden? And I said, because that's her name. Well, where's your mom and dad? And they used to always, and this girl somewhere came out of the nowhere and stepped up forward, and she said, oh, they died in an accident. And my head went, that's a good story. That's what I'm going to say from now on. They died in an accident. So in the book, I think I even say that was the beginning of my lies. I told a lie, and it was right, and it was good, and it worked.
Well, I mean, that through line, I mean, the title, obviously, the secrets, shame, and silence. I mean, that there was so much of that in your life.
Yeah. In everybody's life.
In everyone's life, for sure.
That's why I think this book is going to go forever and ever and ever, because alcoholics are always alcoholics, and they're raising babies all screwed up. And It's not going to stop.
But you don't seem screwed up, and I don't know.
I know.
But,
I know I'm not.
And we're
can't-
still not done with the horror and the tragedy in your life. We still
geez.
have. I know. I'm sorry to drag you through this, but I want people watching this to understand and to get your book for sure and read it, because no matter what you know about the story right now, reading that book is powerful. Even if I'd known the story ahead of time, because you hint at it in the the notes in the back, but having what happened to you and being this kind of person, the person I'm getting to enjoy right now, is a miracle. It's a miracle. A lot of people would have either given up or become bitter, and you've become more lovable and more open. So I want to talk about that, because I think Al-Anon maybe helped you with some of that.
Just because I carried it well doesn't mean it wasn't heavy. Does that make sense?
So much.
Doesn't mean it wasn't heavy. At times it was. Other times it was over here and I was over here, and this was my life, and this is what happened out here. So what do you want to know?
Where did you get the strength to carry that heavy load?
My mother said I was the only one that walked out of the womb out of 7 kids. I'm an Aries. I'm very much of a leader, and I've seen little kids who are Aries, the same qualities I have. Opinionated, very fearless, risk taker. I've always been like that. Even, you know what? Here's another thing I didn't tell you. I don't know if I put it in the book. I think I did. There were lyrics to songs in those days with the big bands and the great singers that just got me through so much. I don't even understand the lyrics today with rap music, but a lot of great songs.
Do you remember any of them? Any of those lyrics that got you?
Huh?
Do you remember any of those old big band songs?
Someone to watch over me. And I heard that the other day on the radio, and I went right with the TV, and I went right back to my mother. But I don't usually talk about her and refer to her as my mother. That's why I'm having tears.
What do you refer to her as?
My parents. That just makes it easier on me, I think. Yeah. You're killing me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just...
He's
I'm
killing me.
really grateful that you're sharing this with me, because, when you read a book, you kind of get to,
Yeah, you think you know the person?
yeah, and it's like you don't really know, because any moment you're writing something.
Well, I don't
there's so much
know of a lot of books that have as much as I've had, and like you say, every page is something
else.
more.
Yeah.
Like when I went into Denny's and met the woman, I mean, did I plan on that?
Right.
No.
Do you want to tell that story?
Do you want me to tell
Yeah,
it?
that's amazing. I love that.
I got up Saturday morning and I was very hungry, and I said, oh my God, I have to go to the bank. And next door to the bank was Denny's. I'd never been in Denny's, and I've lived here 65 years, I think. But this was way back in the 70s. And I said, I'll go over there and have breakfast. I walked in and there's nobody there. And there was a woman sitting at the counter. And I thought, why should I sit by myself? I mean, anybody else would sit by themselves, not me.
Not you.
So I went over to sat by her and I said, and I would talk to her. Of course I would. That's the way I do it. I said, that looks very good. What are you having? And she told me, and I looked. She had diamonds all over her fingers and pearls around her neck and earrings and a silk dress. And I thought, wonder why she's here alone. And I said, why are you here alone? She said, because I come every Saturday by myself from San Francisco. And she said, I call this Trader Vic's. Do you remember the 5-6-star restaurant called Trader Vic's in the city?
I'm not from here. I missed it. I missed it.
You do? Well, she used to call Denny's. She said, like, when we separated, she said, I'll meet you next Saturday at Trader Vic's. I said, good. I was there every Saturday. We had our breakfast, and I showed her my place, and I'd go see her place. And she kept telling me about her nephew and how wonderful he was, and he's taking care of her now. And she was elderly. I mean, I was doing things for her then. That might have been 30 years ago, where she couldn't get under her refrigerator because something had gone under there and she needed it. So I would get down and do it for her. And I would go under her bed and pull out something she needed. Now I'm wanting people to do that for me. But anyway, she was fabulous. And she kept talking about her nephew. And I said, oh, God, she probably wants me to meet him because he was married. And, she did say to me, he is so unhappily married. I wish you could be his wife. And I turned my head away and tears started rolling down my face. And I said, if she only knew what she just said. And I think it was the next time probably that I went over to her house and the door opened and I heard this man's voice say, is that you, Auntie? And she said, we're here. She must have told him she was bringing me. And she must have told him she wanted him to meet me. I mean, so he said, okay, I'll be out in a minute. He comes out and I look at him and I said, I know it's him. You don't change that much. It's him. And he looked at me and I forget what I said in the book. He said, you're just as pretty as you always were. And we hugged. And I thought, this is my secret. He never, ever has to know. I don't care what anybody says.
So this is the man, the father of your
the real dad of my daughter, because the man I married is not her father, even though he died thinking that he was her father, and I didn't want to hurt him either and tell him, you're not the father. Oh. So anyway,
I mean, the serendipity in that, the chances, the odds are just
every day of my life. I used to get upset about something and I'd think, how am I going to get a job? And I'd go through the yellow pages and look at every company. What company do I want to work for? What company? And I'd get tired or I'd get upset or frustrated and I'd throw the damn phone book on the bed and it would fly open to attorneys. And her real father was an attorney. I mean, those things they still happen to me to this day. And I wonder if it's my connection with somebody upstairs or what. I think, no, I don't. I never believe somebody lived upstairs. I believe somebody lives here. Yeah, they live here. They don't. I never look up at the clouds. But I think that's my connection. And I think I can't make it happen, but it happens,
So how did you find your way to Al-Anon?
Well, I told you I played tennis 6 hours a day, every day for 2 years. And I was kind of getting tired. And in fact, the reason I went to Spain, because I was bored with tennis. I knew I was good, but I was never going to get any better. And I wanted to be better. So I said, I'm tired of all this. School's going to be starting pretty soon. And I had two friends who had villas there, and they kept talking to me, and finally it got through. So I said, okay, I'm going to Spain. But my friend, who is still my friend of 45, 50 years, she now has a little dementia, but somebody said, she's drinking a lot. And I said, I've never seen her drink. We have a beer for lunch. They said, oh, no, you got to go to our house at night. And I said, okay. So I go over at night, and I looked under the drawers under the bathroom sink. There were hundreds of those little airline bottles. And I said, how come I never saw her drink and I would never suspect her to be alcoholic? Well, she got 2 DUIs before 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, in a court, that doesn't look very good. Usually they're at night when you've left a party, but not 10 o'clock in the morning. So anyway, she happened to be married to a judge, Marin County judge, and he didn't want her to go to jail. He wanted her to go to recovery. So she went up to Napa, Sonoma, to recovery for 90 days. I believe, personally, that 30 days or 60 days is not enough. Your ego just keeps getting bigger all the time. And 90 days, your ego just starts to get smaller. But she went, and I went up to visit her on weekends. And I was talking to one lady who was running the whole thing, and she said, "You know, Helen, I don't think you're alcoholic. What you need is Al-Anon." And I said, "What's Al-Anon?" I didn't even know there was an AA. Didn't even know my dad was alcoholic. And I told you in the book about my sister, my first oldest sister, could not be alcoholic because she never swore, she never bounced off of walls, and she always wore a hat. Now, obviously, that's a reason for not being alcoholic. So I go to Al-Anon and I start learning about that I was married to an alcoholic. Gary was an alcoholic, but they told me he was a maintenance alcoholic because he drank from 7 to 11 every night. Would go to bed, put on a suit, and go to work. So I said, God, there must be so much here I need to know. And in the back of my head were my brothers and my other sister, and they all married alcoholics, and I married an alcoholic. What's the connection here? As my therapist, he said, what's the thread that's going through all this?
It's interesting the way you frame the book, because you start it with your therapist making you tell the story. Because it seems like the first time you'd ever admitted, like, here's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Seems like that opened up the book, the possibility for you to just like,
not the book,
but no,
start speaking.
Right. But that made
speaking
possible.
to groups.
Exactly.
And these groups used to say to me, your story is so interesting. Why don't you write a book? And I said, God, what are you, crazy? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, on and on, never. I kept notes, and when it was time to write the book, I went through all my junk and found the notes and the books that I ledgers and journals and stuff, and I started trying to pull it together.
You did. You pulled it together.
Oh, God. My writing teacher at the College of Marin used to say, and I think kind of this is what you're talking about. She used to say to the class, if everybody in the class could finish a paragraph the way Helen does, I will be happy. Okay. I don't know what she was talking about. To this day, I don't know what she's talking about. It meant I got to turn the page. Isn't that what it means?
Yeah. Well, it's that, and you get the way the book carries you through, the way you wrote it, is the way you're telling a story now.
My experience, my strength, and my hope.
Yeah, and there's nothing extra. You're not overwriting in here.
Oh, I left a lot out too.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's always something.
I got two publishers on my butt that want book 2.
Yeah. Lucky you. That's great.
No, I want Netflix 7 series episode.
There we go. Now
that's
you're talking.
What I want.
Wow.
How do you get that? You have to have an agent, I think.
Yeah, well.
See, I've sold my books in the UK and Japan. Yeah. I never had an agent. I didn't even know. Sometimes I said, well, how do you sell them? I'd probably be selling them out of the back of the trunk of my car.
Well, I'd like everybody to read it. And there's more. I'm going to leave some things out so that people can go discover it for themselves. But there's.
Oh, okay.
I know that we're not done with the pain and the pain and the tragedy. I feel like I've drugged enough out of you as it is.
Yeah.
You've been very patient with me in my questioning. Good. But I am curious to know, like, today you're sitting here. You've got a lot of grandkids, or not grandkids, but like a lot of kids in your life. You were a nanny. I know there are a lot of young people who love and know you.
After I retired, I took up nanny work in Marin, just in central Marin where I live, in Kentfield, Ross, Greenbrae, and San Anselmo. And those kids, I went to a graduation last week of a kid I had in the crib. She turned 13 and is going to high school. The last 2 I have now are in Wimbledon. They're watching the tennis. They're 10 and 7. So they're still in my life.
They're in your life. And Mike showed me a video of your 90th birthday party, which was...
Oh, the 2 little blonde girls are there, yeah.
And there were just so many people who were saying how much they appreciate you and why.
Did you see that? I never saw that. I have to see that. I never heard anyone speak on my...
Well, I hate to be, surprising you with the spoiler alert, but people really like you.
I guess so.
And there are very young people who still very much look up to you and like you. So if there was anything you could tell them with all your years of wisdom and things, you've mentioned here that you were naive, with all that you've learned in your life, is there anything that you would want those young people to know?
I always tell everybody to get into the Dalai Lama said the 12-step program is the greatest thing that's ever happened to America. And I would tell anybody to get into a 12-step program, figure out where you fit. And mine is ACA, adult children of alcoholics, adult children of addicts, or adult children of assholes. And everybody has one or two of those in their families. So get in there and clean it up. Don't carry that crap on. That's why it's called the past, but you got to clean it up before you can move. And you don't ever need to go to the future because it's not your job. It's somebody more powerful than you. It's their job. You need to stay right here in the now. And it's very simple, but why do we make it difficult?
Well, simple is difficult.
I know. My foster mother used to say, everything in life is so simple, only we make it difficult. And I used to look at her at 15 and say, well, I make my bed every morning. I brush my teeth. I eat and I go to school and I read a lot of books and I write a lot of book reports. And I don't even know what you're talking about. I didn't get it until I was in my 50s or 60s.
I'm still
when
trying
it's
to get
time,
it.
it's time.
Yeah.
Now I'm 91 and a half. Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Everybody says that. And I got
it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time, 91 and a half years.
I got a little sad because people would say, well, what about this and what about that? And I'd say, how the hell should I know? I've never been 90 before. And it would happen at least once a day. You don't look, you're so inspiring, you're blah, blah, blah. And I would feel terrible. So then I went to Kaiser and I said, you know what you need? You need to get some kind of workshop or build something for seniors so they can sit and ask each other and have somebody who knows. My doctor's 37. What the hell does he know? Let these seniors talk to each other. Well, that didn't really work well. You're probably the best thing that's happened to answer that question for me.
No, a brilliant gerontologist, if you want to talk to her, or geriatrician. But I'm not impressed with you because of your age. I'm just impressed with you because of the way you are. Like just the kind of person you are, to me, is that's inspiring and impressive in itself, regardless of how old you are.
I don't really even know what you're talking about.
Good.
And I said this a million times. One thing I do not do is hold a grudge. Yeah. I don't know how to do that. And before I got in the 12-step program, I used to try to go back and do things that never hurt anybody, but were just goofy. And I can't do them anymore. They're gone. They're gone.
Well, there's a phrase that you said when we first sat down, you and Mike. Would you mind telling me what that is?
Oh, may we never have less.
Tell me what that means to you. And then I'll let you go. I'll stop asking you questions.
Oh, we can talk. I love talking. I'm going to speak on Zoom, I told you.
Yes.
And my purpose for that is to make smart women smarter.
How do people find that? When is that?
It's on Zoom, and you can go to ACA.
The ACA website.
Google or whatever.
I'll put up a link to it.
Yeah.
And it's in July? It's coming up?
Oh, it's every day, every month, yeah.
You do it regularly.
I've spoken in Australia. I've spoken all
amazing.
over. Yeah. When they invite me, I just don't go do it. I used to just go do it around here.
Well, I'll make sure people find that, you speaking. But I want you to, if you just, the last thing we'll do, if you just don't mind telling me
I'm not done.
What that means to you. I know you're not done. We're going to talk more. You and I are going to hang out, but I've got to wrap this thing up. But I want you to tell me more, just one more thing. What does it mean to you? May we never have less. What does that mean?
Well, it probably means, when I say it at the dinner table, it means food. But usually there's some dumb nerd at the table who says, Les, I want to have more. And I think, stay out of my life. You don't even get it. You don't get it. But I think to me it probably means food. And I have choices now to make, to get food, have food, not want food, don't eat food, anything. But it means a lot. To everybody, it's going to mean something different. Yeah. May we never have less. And just because I carried it well doesn't mean it wasn't heavy. I love that. Everybody can say that. I try to teach women around the world that. because it's so easy, which I never did, was go into the victim role. I didn't know how to do that, or I probably would have. But women want to go into the victim role, and it's not healthy. You don't want to be there. Just know that it was heavy, and you made it.
Yeah, you
It's
made
work.
it.
It's work.
Well, I'm glad you made it, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we're going to be pals. I look forward to being your friend. Thank you so much, Helen.
I love this. This is exciting. Very good.
Produced by Sound Legacy, San Rafael, California.